Honestly, I had never seen this picture before I started doing my research on Penn Central, and I had no idea that this had even happened. But it interests me, and it's already another tarnish on Penn Central's former reputation. Um, just for a little context for people who aren't rail fans, Penn Central was the result of a merger between the Pennsylvania Railroad, the New York Central, and the New Haven Railroad. I don't have the time to explain why Penn Central was an utter failure, but if you're interested in learning about Penn Central itself, I highly recommend this video by RJ's Trains. The guy does an absolutely amazing job at explaining what Penn Central was, how it failed, and a little bit about Conrail in under 18 minutes. So I highly recommend, if you want to learn about this sort of thing, he's the guy to go to. But with that, let's get into the history of what happened in South Boston Yard on August 21st, 1969. August 21st, 1969, at the Dover Street Yard in South Boston. A train of 3 locomotives was preparing to take a freight train down to Albany, New York from Dover Street Yard. The train is led by Penn Central GP40 number 3182 and followed by New York Central U30B 2857. Also included is a third locomotive that I'm unable to identify due to the pictures not having a high enough quality, but I can say for certainty that it is a Penn Central unit. At around 3 p.m., the crew of Penn Central workers who had just gotten the 3 locomotives ready to haul the freight from Dover Street Yard in South Boston to a yard in Albany, New York. The fuel tanks were full and the engines were on to await the hostler, or the yard engineer who would drive the locomotives over to the freight area to connect them to the cars for their trip. But then, even though the brakes were engaged, the 3 locomotives began to move on their own. They started traveling around a loop in the yard, today known as MBTA's Cabot Yard. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I don't know how to pronounce this genuinely. As they picked up speed, the locomotives moved onto a short spur line that ended at a chain-link fence along Frontage Road and the Southeast Expressway just before Mass Avenue exit, only with no one to stop them. State investigators later concluded that the crew had been working on the diesels, panicked, and jumped off, which, in all honesty, is understandable. Right? Like, if I was working on an engine and all of a sudden it started to move, even though I damn well knew that I had the handbrakes and the air brakes screwed on, you can bet your ass I would be jumping off that thing before it takes me for a ride. Oh, yeah! And also, these weren't crawling at like 5 miles an hour. No. They were recorded at speeds of about 30 miles an hour before GP40 3182 smashed through the fence and just kept going across Frontage Road and onto the northbound side of the highway. The first engine made it most of the way across the northbound lanes before it stopped, gouging out what the Globe reported were 3-foot-deep grooves in the road. The second diesel came to a rest on Frontage Road. The third was already broken away from the other 2, and it was just resting behind the U30B. Surprisingly, though, nobody was hurt in the crash. I mean, it did come before rush hour, so that kind of screwed things up because then it created an immense traffic jam and police were diverting traffic at the, again, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce this, Neopenset Circle, southbound, because everybody was rubbernecking. It's not every day you see a diesel locomotive sitting on the highway. I want to know what that cop's reaction was. They just got to the crash site like, what in the did you guys do? But now the big question. How in the hell do you get these locomotives off the highway? Well, the Globe reports that a Penn Central crew was able to pull the third engine back onto the tracks from which it had come. But to get the other 2 off the road, they had to bring in some temporary tracks and use cranes to lift the 125-ton vehicles onto them before they could be wheeled back into the yard. The Globe quoted a Penn Central official as saying, "This had never happened before." I don't know what to make of that statement, but that just seems a bit off. Fuck! Oh! And this is also called an oddball disaster, which I can understand. You know, it's pretty odd. You never see a diesel locomotive sitting on a highway. So after all this, What happened to the locomotives? Well, I don't know what the last locomotive was. However, I can safely assume by its design that it was scrapped sometime in the 1970s or the 1980s. Same thing for the New York Central locomotive. Though we do know what it is, I've looked up what happened to the U-30Bs, and most of them have been scrapped, so I'm going to assume that this one met its end sometime around the mid-70s to early 80s. The GP40, however, somehow survived and is now a part of NJ Transit's fleet, renumbered to 4210, and is still in operation even today, even though the last photo of it was taken around 2008 from what I could find. Honestly, now that I found out more information on this accident, I'm kind of intrigued to learn more about it. For example, what made those locomotives run away? And I really would like to know the reaction of the state police or highway patrol, whatever responded to the crash. I would love to have heard their reactions because they would have been priceless. But I would also like to know what that last locomotive was, what it was numbered, what happened to the U30B, even though I'm pretty sure it was scrapped, and if 4210 is still in operation. But with that being said, thank you guys for listening to me ramble and rant on about the Penn Central for a little bit. This sort of stuff fascinates me, and it's honestly something I might continue in the future. So if you guys are interested in seeing more odd facts about odd accidents in history or with railroads, let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. And this is Scout Snipers signing out.